Howdy folks, Rudrose here, and today get to do something that is always one of my favorite activities when you are a fan of multiple card games, and that is I get to have other players try to rate or guess how good or bad they think Lorcana cards are. And today I have a very good friend from the old Final Fantasy days, but currently he's quite the Shadowverse player. This is my good buddy Xavier. Xavier, how are you, sir?
Doing fine, Mr. Rudrose. How are we doing today?
Good. Glad to have you on here. Okay, so for the audience, you got to let us know. What do you know about Lorcana? Have you played it? You've played a lot of it. What's your experience level with it?
So I dabbled a little bit in Lorcana when it first came out.
Okay.
I have not really touched it ever since. I just know I'll just see posts of like, oh, new set coming out, and there's a character from this series that's going to be in. There's a character from this series going to be in it. I never actually took the time to look at the cards just because I just stopped playing it.
Gotcha.
So I know how the game is played. I know the objective, you have to get the lore and everything. But as far as what cards are good, I got nothing. I couldn't tell you.
Excellent. So, well, this will be a fun experience for you. And, of course, ask any questions if you're confused. So give me a little background on Shadowverse. I've heard a lot about Shadowverse. I've never played it myself. Is there another game you think it kind of compares the most to? Is it pretty unique? Give me a quick little rundown of it.
So there's two versions of Shadowverse. There's the mobile version that's been around for years and years and years now, and then there's Shadowverse Evolve, which is just it in physical paper form. They follow a lot of similar rules. There's some key differences. One difference is that in paper form, you actually have interaction during your opponent's turn during certain phases and stuff. So there's more just more of a thinking element to it. But if I were to compare it to anything else, it plays a lot like Hearthstone in the sense that, cards have a mana value. They have a health, they have a toughness, or a power and a toughness. In each turn, you'll get one additional max mana up to 10.
Gotcha.
You have your spell slinging class, you have your ramp class, you have your swarm the board aggro. Other than that, it plays very similar to older Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Not so much modern, where it's more random stuff.
Well, and I feel like resource systems really define the differences in a lot of these games. Magic, you have to play a land to generate mana. In Lorcana, you have to ink a card from your hand. Hearthstone, you're just given one. One Piece is kind of similar. You're given so much Dawn or energy every turn. So, all right, well, let's see how your Shadowverse and FF knowledge applies to Lorcana. You ready to start?
Yes, sir.
All right, so first we're going to start with, we're going to go in color order, so this is Amber. And first we have our 7-cost Pluto, the Determined Defender. He has a 3/8 stat line, shifts for 5, has the Bodyguard text, and then he has the ability Guard Dog. At the start of your turn, remove up to 3 damage from this character, and he quests for 2 lore. Mr. Xavier, what do you think? And of course, if, again, you're not clear on any terms or anything, feel free to ask and I will clarify.
All right, so let's see. So we got a 3/8 body, which, as I have learned, the stats only matter when you challenge. They don't actually matter as far as actually advancing your win con, I guess, would be the way I guess I would explain it.
So the lore pip, you have to get to 20 lore. So, for example, this character quests for 2. So if he were to quest, you would go from 0 to 2. Obviously, he does that 10 times. He would then win the game.
He does cost 7.
True.
7 for 3/8, but you can play it on 5 if you already have another Pluto on board. Bodyguard, I remember, I think, being pretty good because when this character may enter play exert, an imposing character who challenges one of your characters must choose this if able. So it's like taunt, and having 8 health, I think, is really good for a taunt card. Just because it's a big wall you have to get over. If you don't have I don't know what Lorcana actually has as far as actual removal in this set. I know Steel had small pings, ping for 2, ping for 1. Ruby had Dragonfire for 5. I think that just got rid of a thing.
Correct. Yeah, it was 5 cost uninkable. Choose a character, banish it.
But it still costed 5.
Correct.
Which was still a pretty hefty amount. And then Guard Dog at the start of your turn, remove up to 3 damage from those characters. So I would say, despite it being 7 mana, it sounds like a very sticky body to deal with. Because I know one of the big things is you kind of have to challenge eventually throughout the game. Otherwise, your opponent's just going to keep getting lore and they're going to outrace you. So like if you're behind, usually it's like you would try and like trade into their characters to try and get them to slow down. This kind of like very much prevents that. So it's literally, and the fact that it removes 3, it's like you either have to get it out in one turn, otherwise it's just going to become a very big nuisance. And you're still, whatever's trading into it still get hits for 3 regardless. So you can still probably lose stuff on your own end.
It's a lot of text. I tried to give you cards that were pretty interesting, so.
You know, it's definitely an interesting card. I feel like it reads good. I guess the only issue is that like it does cost 7, but then again it has shift for 5.
True.
So depending on how good like any Pluto that costs 4 or less in either amber or whatever your color you're pairing this with is, I don't know of any other Plutos. I'm just gonna roll with amber just because it seems like the easiest one. So if there's another good 4 cost or less Pluto that's worth running, and you're running a more or you're running something you kind of like want to protect like your other guys because maybe like they're smaller in stats but they give more lore in the long run, so if you can protect them it's really good.
You're deep in the tank on this one.
I am. Cost 7. It's also inkable, so it's not like a brick in hand necessarily, because like if you have this turn 1 and you already know like you're probably not going to use it for a while, you can always just throw it down as an ink.
True.
And like find, because you could probably find like the other copies later throughout the game.
Verdict is?
I want to say it's good just because I like the concept of, like, granted the body costs a lot, you can get it in cheaper, and it does, I would say, a moderately good thing. I'm going to say it's a decently good card.
He says decently good. So you are doing this at a very interesting time because Lorcana has just had its first set rotation, so I can kind of give an insight of some of these cards that I show you will have been reprinted, others are not. This one was reprinted in the new set rotation. As of current speaking and recording this card sees 0 play. I've never seen anyone use it. Like you, I really like this card personally, and I really tried to make it work in set 3 when it came out. The ultimate issue, it's just too expensive. There are some okay Plutos to shift it onto. There's even one that like makes the next thing cheaper, so you can actually shift him out a little earlier than 5, but still, it's just too... By the time he came out, usually your opponent could get to that Dragonfire or a Madame Medusa or whatever card that could just remove him anyway. So it wasn't really worth the investment. If he had the same concept but was cheaper, so maybe he had a smaller body, but just, you could get him out on 5 or you could shift him out on 3, I really think he'd actually see quite a bit of play. But as it is right now, he's just far too expensive.
Unfortunate. Look at him, he's so proud and everything.
He is. I love this art. Yeah, I love his art, the cape, the name Determined Defender, but not yet, Pluto. Maybe one day. All right, so next we have Lady. We got to stick with the dog themes. Amber is the dog color. Lady, go ahead and read this card for me.
All right, so we got Lady, family dog. It's a 3 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness, quests for 2, storyborn hero. Someone to care for. When you play this character, you may play a character with cost 2 or less for free. I'm just gonna come out and say this is a good card. I cannot think of a world this is not good. It's 3 for a 2/2, so that's usually pretty good as long as the effect is good. It quests for 2, which is for this early on of a cost, I recall at least set 1. Was pretty good, and it literally says play a character cost 2 or less. So you throw this in some type of aggro deck that just wants to go wide really, really fast, quest really, really fast. Just a lot of low cost, cheap guys with decent like questing lore amounts. I have to think there's no way that kind of deck does not exist. I have to think this is a good card.
He is very confident on that and jumped to it. And yeah, give the man a prize. You are correct. This is just an absolutely bonkers aggro card. Like you said, it just lets you vomit more stuff into play. It quests for 2 itself. So even if the thing you're bringing in isn't amazing, she's still adding to lore pressure. This is one of those cards that I was just baffled that this wasn't uninkable. Given the power level of all the other stuff they make in the game, this card just screams uninkable. But for some reason, you can ink it. Not that you ever really would want to, because you want to put, but just if you absolutely needed to, you can tuck it into your inkwell. So yeah, this card's absolutely insane. Is pretty much a 4 of in every aggro deck that uses Amber.
I believe it.
Next, moving on to my favorite color, this is Amethyst. Here we have Cusco, the Temporary Whale. 1/4, quest for 2. He is a 5-cost uninkable, so this cannot be put into your inkwell. Don't you say a word. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may return chosen character, item, or location with cost 2 or less to their player's hand. Then, that player draws a card. What do you think?
Alright, so he is 5, so he's definitely a costly whale. 1/4.
The costly whale, that's what it should be called. Yeah, the costly whale.
1/4 isn't exactly the most impressive of stats, but like we said, it's more. It's weird. Like if removal is that good, then I guess the stats don't matter too much. It's more so the lore. He quests for 2, which isn't too bad. I think 2 is like on average is like fine.
Yeah, the most common, I'll say that the most common lore totals are 1 and 2. So if something has like 3 or more, that's pretty rare. Not very many cards have that.
Okay, so 2 is pretty good. And once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you return a chosen character, item, or location will cost 2 less to their player's hand, then that player draws a card. So the fact that it's reciprocal makes it interesting. So you could either so 2 things. One, if you could when you do the effect, when you add to your inkwell by whatever means, you could bounce something on your opponent's board that you kind of just want out of the way. And then it's a question of if bouncing the thing back to their hand is worth giving them the extra resource. Just depends on how much of an annoyance that thing is that is on board. And then on the flip side, you could bounce one of your own things. You also draw a card of it, so you're giving yourself more resources. And then whatever you bounce to your hand, if it has like a really decently good ETB effect, could be really good because then you get to trigger that a second time. It's limited to it being cost 2 or less. I'm going to assume that's just for like balance reasons. Just because I feel like if it was anything more, you would probably more than often probably target your opponent's things. Just because like let's just say there was no restriction, they play like a 6-cost body for something that they need to stick around. You play this, you play the ink. You just send it back to their hand. Yeah, they get a draw card, but they lost so much tempo, so it's probably for like a balance reason. But then again, it also like hurts it because if you just have this, but you have nothing good on your opponent's board to balance, it really just comes to how well you built your own deck. I guess another thing too is, say you played a 2-drop, has an ETB effect, or you have something on board that you want to stick around for a later turn, but you feel like your opponent has a way to remove it. You could always ink, get it back to your hand, draw a card, and then you keep it safe from your opponent for like a later turn. So it's definitely interesting. So it's definitely interesting. This one I feel like really comes down to how you built your deck. If you're trying to take advantage of it for yourself, and if you're not, what is in other people's decks you want to get rid of. I don't want to. So because of that, I don't want to say it's a bad card. I just don't think it's good because it seems a little too situational.
So not bad, but not good. So what do you think? Just kind of average?
A little less than average is where I would put it.
We'll take that. So you could have leaned even further into that. This card is awful and it sees no play. That being said, post-rotation, there are a few people who I've seen experiment with it a little bit. So maybe in the post-rotation world, it will be a little better just because so many cards are not there anymore. However, it's uninkable, so if you get early, you're stuck. You actually really touched on it when you said build around your own deck, because you can't count on your opponent having stuff that costs 2 or less. Like, unless you're going against an aggro list, there's so many decks they don't even have characters, that are that low, so you legit have no targets for him. So then you have to rely on your own stuff, and that could be really beneficial. The problem is too, because he costs 5, if you put him out on turn 5, you can't ink that turn because you've already inked for turn to get him to 5. So then you got to wait till 6 to even trigger anything with him. His stats are terrible for a 5. Like 1/4 is the stats of like a 1 or a 2 costs. So he's just got way too many things going against him. He's a cool idea, but yeah, Costly Whale I think was a much better description of him, as you said in the beginning.
Maybe that's why he only stayed as a whale temporarily.
Exactly.
When he gets something better.
All right, next in Amethyst we have Dumbo. Why don't you read this card for us?
All right, Dumbo is a 4-cost 3/3 that only inks for 1. Storyborn hero, has evasive, so only characters with evasive can challenge this character. That's pretty good. I remember it being pretty good. Breaking records. You can tap it and pay 1 to draw a card and gain lore. It's not a hard once per turn, so I guess if you had a way to active or untap, you could do it again.
Correct.
Making history. Your other characters with evasive gain tap, pay 1, draw a card, gain 1 lore.
To put it simply, I don't know why this is broken into 2 abilities. It should just simply read, your characters with evasive gain this effect. For some reason, they split it into 2, but it's the exact same effect both ways, and Dumbo himself has evasive, so it essentially just reads, any character you have with evasive has the ability to exert, pay an ink, and then you draw a card and gain a lore.
Well, because he's doing 2 things. He's breaking records and making
history. Yeah. Thematically, I understand, but it just makes the word
I wouldn't know if thematic. Funny fun fact, I never watched Dumbo.
Yeah.
I just heard about Dumbo. But anyways, 4-mana 3/3. That's not bad. It does have evasive, so it having like lower stats isn't too bad because it can only get challenged by other cards with evasive. I guess it don't really matters when it comes to like removal. Tap it, pay 1, draw a card, gain a lore. So if you do it with Dumbo, it's basically as if you still quested with the card, only you paid an extra 1 to draw a card. It basically comes out the same. Other characters with evasive, you can do the same thing. Maybe this goes in like an evasive aggro style deck, because you could always pay the 1 to draw a card so you get more resources, because you're probably going to be burning out quickly because you're aggro, and then you still get the 1 lore you would get from the Dumbo anyways. I don't know, because I read this, I think aggro, and like I like aggro decks. I feel like this would probably see play in 1. I mean, maybe it's like a little bit of biasy, but I also like the really big Pluto. So that's my excuse. The draw is what makes it really so alluring. It's only for 1, and then like I said, if I think Red had ways to untap things, if I remember correctly.
Red had some ways to like ready a character after they've done a.
So maybe if you really wanted to dig into the draw, you could have like Dumbo, maybe like a couple other evasive things, be your evasive things, and you run this like red purple type of aggro, maybe, if that's a thing, and then you just Dumbo, pay the 1, get the lore, draw the card, untap it. It feels good. The idea feels good. I want it to be good. It's
Is
really
it
the
good?
draw.
Well,
I'm gonna say it's good, and I'm gonna say it's good for the draw alone.
All right, he says it's good. Yes, you are correct. Not only is it good, this is the Chase Legend from the most recent set. This is absolutely the most busted card in the set. It's beyond good. It's the card everyone's going for, trying to buy right now. I think at one point it was like $100 on TCG Player. Everyone wanted Dumbo. And now, granted, yeah, part of the reason is because post-rotation. Pre-rotation, I don't think this card actually would have seen a lot of play, but because post-rotation, because so many cards got filtered out, there's a lot less stuff that could hate Dumbo out of the format. So, like you said, card draw is very scarce right now. So because of that, Dumbo not only being able to draw a card himself, but any of your evasives. So you'll see these decks where people have 3-4 evasives. Here's the thing. Even though Dumbo can't use the effect for himself the turn you play him, if you have 4 evasives on the field, you drop Dumbo and you've got a bunch of extra ink, they can all hit the effect right away. And then card draw just gets you out of there. So yeah, right now he's absolutely bonkers, and he is the Chase Legend, and he's quite the wonder. He lives up to his title.
Yeah, $100. Is that $100 non-foil?
Yeah, non-foil. I think it's gone down since then. Like, I don't think it's currently there, but I did see it at that point when everyone was hunting for this guy.
Man, we're hitting Yu-Gi-Oh levels of expensive cardboard now.
Right?
Holy.
Well, let's move on to Emerald, see how you do on these ones. Next, we have Under the Sea. This is an 8-cost action song. It has Sing Together 8, which means any number of you or your teammates' characters with a total cost of 8 or more may exert to sing this song for free. Put all opposing characters with 2 strength or less on the bottom of their players' decks in any order. What do you think?
Let's see, so Sing Together for 8. So I have one question. So I know Amber has cards that have, we'll say, like Sing 3, and they're only a 1 cost. If
Correct.
you have a 1 cost on board that has Sing 3 and it tries to sing this, will it count as 1 or will it count as 3?
It would count as 3. So, for example, there are some pretty big cards. There was a Cinderella for 1 that sang for 3, and there's an Ariel for 3 that sang for 5. So she's a singer 5, a singer 3. So together, those two could sing this because they create a singer 8 for their cost.
Okay, and then can you exert characters that just came in?
You cannot. They do have to have, we refer to it as their ink has to be dry. So the turn you play them, their ink is still drying, or like in Hearthstone or Magic, you'd call it summoning sickness. So they're summoning sick the turn they come in, then the next turn they can exert to sing a song.
Okay, so you couldn't, like, Cinderella turn 1, and then, like you said, play the Ariel that can sing for 5, but only does 3 on turn 3, and then play this on turn 3.
Correct. Yeah, she needs to wait a turn to be able to sing.
Okay, so okay. I guess the other thing is if you happen to just draw 3 Cinderellas, you then could play this on 3. But then it's like that's Magical Christmas Land.
Yeah, of course, yeah. As long as you have 8 people who can sing a total of 8, you can do this on whatever turn it's feasible for you.
Okay. Put all opposing characters with power 2 or less on the bottom of their deck. It costs 8. Ugh. So, yeah, two things I think are going against this card. Costs 8. I know it has. Okay, I didn't know we can with Don't may tap to sing the song for free. Okay. Okay, another question. If you tap, let's say you have a total of like 4 cost of characters on the board, and you have like 4 open ink.
You can't split it. No, you either have to pay all 8 ink or you have to sing it with 8 cost.
Ugh. Okay, so then. So it's either you have to have the 8 costs on board, which assuming you play on curve and you don't have singers, you have to wait easily until turn 5. Otherwise, for 8, if you're not ramping by some means, then you have to wait till turn 8, and it only gets rid of things of 2 or less, which. Getting rid of power 2 less, I don't know what like the average powers for like aggro style cards are. I know we saw Lady earlier; she was a 2/2, so this would get rid of that and probably whatever else she brought in. The issue is that like You have to wait till turn 8. Ugh. Like, if it costed less but still got rid of 2 power, or stayed at 8 but got rid of like more things on the opposing board, I feel like it would be better. But because it's 8 and you got to get rid of things 2 or less, I hate to say it, but I think it's a bad card, which is unfortunate because I think it was a good song.
Yeah, right. He says it's a bad card. You are pretty accurate. There is actually one deck that can take advantage of this, and in that deck it's quite strong, but it is very much a build around. Currently it's called green blue. It used to be green yellow, but it in blue you're able to ramp up ink pretty high, so you can get higher cost characters, so it's easier to sing because you pretty much tapped into that. You don't want to pay 8 for this. That's just way too expensive. You need people to sing it for free. And in blue and yellow they had another card that essentially took your opponent's board, and it said all characters on your opponent's board, they all lose 3 strength till the end of the turn. So suddenly, instead of like limited removal, this actually essentially just board wipes them one-sided, which was very strong, but you have to build around it, and you have to build it with those other cards and singers. So in that one deck that it's built around, it's quite an effective card, but beyond that, it'll never see play beyond that specific build around.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, so you were very accurate. Again, you in a vacuum, this is bad. You can't just jam this into any green deck. You have to specifically build around it and put a bunch of stuff in there to make it work. And when it's in there, it is a very strong thing you can do, but needs that big build around. We'll see if this next one needs as much build around. Going with Emerald. All right, go ahead and read this one for me.
All right, so we got ourselves another Cusco. All right, so we got a 5-mana 2/4 Cusco, Temperamental Emperor, Storyborn King. Has Ward, so opponents can't choose this character except to challenge. So kind of like, I guess, like the inverse of evasive, I guess, in a sense. Or Bodyguard, I think is the one I'm thinking of. No touchy. When this character is challenged and banished, you may banish the challenging character, and it quests for 3. Okay, so let's see. So 2/4, definitely on the lower end of stats. It barely has 1 more power than what we saw with the other Cusco, because it was also 5 mana. It was also uninkable. And this one does give you 1 more lore. Like you said, 3 and 4 tend to be like more rarer, so this one does give us 3. Wars, so opponents can't choose characters to challenge, so they can't remove it or target it with abilities, right? So they can't like Dragonfire it or
correct.
Anything.
Yeah, anything that would say any ability or action, it's essentially immune to that.
Okay. Except challenge. Okay, so the only way you're getting rid of this is through challenge, and then it has, of course, when this character is challenged and banished, you may banish the challenging character. Okay, so it's only when your opponent goes into this, not if this were to go into something your opponent had on board. Which is fine, because like it has 3 lore, which as you said is rare, so I imagine that's pretty good. And it's only a 2/4. I'd imagine it's not really going to get any like favorable trades. So you're probably fine with it just being your opponent has to trade into it. The fact that you have to trade into it. So let's see, and they can't challenge things unless they're exerted, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you play this unless your opponent either has an AoE board wipe or an AoE exert effect. This is definitely going to stick around for the turn. I'm going to assume there is no card that says this can challenge characters that aren't exertive.
There are a couple cards in one color that say like you can challenge a readied character, but they're very rare. In general, a card like this that has ward, you're going to have to wait to challenge it. Like very rarely are you going to be able to just get it off the field through other means.
Yeah, so in Shadowverse we actually have that as a keyword. It's called a sail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so similar thing. You can't attack opponents' cards unless they're tapped, basically. A sail a sale basically says, "Oh, this card can attack a thing even if it's not tapped."
Gotcha.
So we have a keyword for it, so it works the same way. But you said they're very far and few between, so I'm betting on this definitely sticking around for the turn regardless. So you play this, your opponent does whatever on their turn, goes back to you, you swing, you get your 3 lore. I would say pretty much relatively guaranteed. Goes back to your opponent. They have to throw something into this, but they have to be careful about what they throw into this because when this character is challenged and banished, may balance the challenged character. So whatever deals the final blow to the Cusco also gets removed.
Mm-hmm.
So your opponent has to definitely be very careful. With that said, with that also said, if they don't have something they want to favorably trade into, I guess they could wait until like the following turn to have like a better favorable trade, but then like you're still questing for 3 lore and you only need to get to 20.
Correct.
So, if you get 3 guaranteed, and if it's stuck around for a turn, you get to 6. You're basically a fourth of the way there, or like a little more than a fourth of the way there already. On its own, definitely a very sticky body. Sticky bodies tend to be very good. I'm gonna say it's a good card.
He says it's a good card. So this card's funny. This card was in the very first set of the game, came out in the first chapter. And back then, it was an absolute menace. And because the card pool is so short, outside of like a Shantoto like board wipe, which is an FF reference, it would be prepared for us. Once he came down, he was gonna at least quest for 3, right? He has ward, you can't target him with anything. Like, he was going to get his 3 lore off. However, as other cards came out and got better and better, and aggro got faster, he essentially just became too slow because he's uninkable, so he would often brick your hand. And you saw with that lady, like, there's better cards now that quest for lore just at a quicker pace. So at this time, he no longer sees play at all, but he was quite the menace when he came out way back when.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. We're 0-2 for currently good Cusco cards.
Yeah, right. He's struggling a bit. Well, let's see if our next one makes a difference. So next color, we have red. I'm going to read this. This is a 6-cost Mulan, the Elite Archer. She's a 2/6 stat line. She has Shift 5 and Straight Shooter. When you play this character, if you use Shift to play her, she gets +3 Strength this turn. Triple Shot. During your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, deal the same amount of damage to up to 2 other chosen characters. And she quests for 2 lore. What do you think?
Oh, I think I need to get me that suit of armor. That thing was great.
Right? Yeah, she does look quite awesome in it.
Okay, really quick. Mulan is easily my favorite Disney character.
Oh, nice.
Or favorite Disney princess. I'll put it. Easily favorite Disney princess. Fun fact, she's the only one that has a confirmed kill count.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
So just this art depiction of her, I think this looks really, really cool. So 6 for 2/6, it is inkable. So if you break on it early, you can at least put it in the ink pool to use. Quest for 2, which is, like you said, is a pretty common number. Shifts for 5, which it I guess is like really weird because like you only get out 1 turn earlier, but this is a card you definitely want to shift anyways. So you want to shift it anyways because when you shift it, it can immediately challenge or quest, right?
Correct. So when you shift, it retains the status of the card below it. So if the card below it was no longer summoning sick, then this one can immediately challenge or quest. If, like, let's say you played a Mulan and then instantly shifted this one on top of it, it would still be summoning sick because what it shifted on was summoning sick.
Oh, okay. So you definitely have to have a Mulan from a previous turn, otherwise it doesn't do anything. And you definitely want it for the first effect, and then like the first effect feeds into like the second effect, because in an ideal scenario, you would play this on 5. It becomes a 5/6. You challenges one of your opponent's characters. You dealt 5 to it, and then you can deal 5 to like 2 other things. So ideally, it's like you trade into you take out 1 body, deal this damage to 2 other bodies. So probably take out 3 bodies. Hopefully, you hit like a small thing. She does have 6 toughness, which I think is pretty good. So as long as you're taking out something on like the smaller end, probably made like a good like favorable trade. Gosh, I want this to be good. I want it to be good. I want it to be good also because I just think the artwork is pretty cool. So let's think. So what scenarios is this good? Your opponent has like 2 or 3 bodies on board. I think 2 is fine if it's like if they're the 2 bodies are like threatening enough. You throw this down, you take out the smaller of the 2 or 3, you deal with the other ones. You're still left with the body, so it's like a board wipe or removal on a body. Removal on a body is usually pretty good because not only do you get rid of your opponent's thing, you also put a thing on board that can threaten later. So that's when it's good. It's bad in like every other scenario. Like if you don't shift it and you just have the 2/6, you probably aren't going to take anything out with its 2 power. And then during your turn, when this character deals damage to another character in the challenge. Okay. But it still gets the last effect. So does red have a way to give a character like rush?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe even if you like, so maybe if there's like a character or an item that can just give this rush on 6 when it comes in, maybe you could deal with like smaller bodies that are still threatening. I wanted to. I don't know. you got me stumped on this one.
Trust your TCG experience. What does it tell you? And luckily, there's no prizes or penalties here, so it's okay if you guess wrong.
My TCG instinct says you have to be in like the niche scenario for this to be good. It has a lot of check boxes it needs to hit in order for it to be good. So I think because of that, it's. I don't want to say it's a bad card, but I have to say it's a bad card because there's like because there's numerous check marks you have to hit, and it's like if you're missing like two of those check marks, and it's like not worth the play.
Your instincts serve you well. Unfortunately, this is a bad card. I have played it in certain lists, and when it goes off, it is one of the most satisfying feelings in Lorcana, and it feels great. And very rarely will she get banished by whatever she hits into. Like you said, you hit something smaller, and then you pop 2 other things for 5, so it's like a little mini board wipe, and then she has 2 quests, so then she helps your win condition. It is a top-tier moment when the card goes off. However, as you alluded to, there's a lot of boxes to check. If you just play this for 6, you just spent 6 on a card that does nothing. It just sits there and does nothing for a whole turn. So you have to shift her, and because you have to shift her, most people are pretty aware of this. Like if you're playing red and they see a Mulan sitting there, they're like, oh, okay, well either I'll just take that Mulan out or I'm not going to quest on 5 ink because I know you're just going to wait to shift this in and like knock people out. Love the card, and it is so fun when it goes off, but yes, there are unfortunately far too many boxes for you to check to make this card reliable.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
It is, because it's a really cool concept. Let's see if our second... So cool. What's that?
It looks so cool.
It does. Yeah, it's got great art. Let's see if our second Ruby card fares any better. Why don't you tell me about this one? Okay,
so we got an item card this time. We got a 4-mana item. It's uninkable. The Dinner Bell. You know what happens. You tap it, pay 2, draw cards equal to the damage on chosen character of yours, then banish them. Okay. So let's think about this. Let's say you tap it, you pay 2, and you already had to pay 4 for it, but it's a repeatable 2. So I guess on the first one you have to pay 6 basically to draw a set number of cards, but then like the next time you do it, it's only 2 to draw that, so like it balances out. So I guess it gets better as it goes. Draw cards equal to the damage on chosen character of yours, then banish it. Okay. So if you have a body that has taken a lot of damage, it's down to like its last health, maybe it traded into a thing you needed to really get rid of, and like it only has like 1 lore or something on it, and like you're fine because you're gonna lose it on something regardless. Or like you quest, and you're fine just getting rid of it. You can just pay the 2, trade it in, hopefully get like more cards to your hand. How many cards would you have to draw for this to be worth it? Let's think.
Good question. Oh, and just for the record, for items, unlike characters, they can be exerted the turn they come in.
Right. But even then, like on 4, you still couldn't do it because
correct. But like if it was 6 and you paid 4, you could immediately spend the 2 to use the effect if you wanted to.
So let's see. So you couldn't do on 4. So I guess the question becomes: do you want to do this on 4? Because like if you do it on 4, it doesn't do anything. Whereas, so let's see. If you play on 4, you can't do anything. So it's kind of like a 4-mana do nothing turn. Which I don't know how fast the game is right now, so I don't know if you could afford to do like a 4-mana do nothing play, because you have to wait anyways. So if you can't afford a 4-mana do nothing play, you have to wait until 6 to play this. Have a guy that you are willing to sacrifice that has taken sufficient enough damage to where you also play 2 and just draw. At that point, your turn becomes 6 mana, draw hopefully like 3 cards. 6 mana draw 3. Like, I don't know what like the rate for like drawing cards just on its own is in Lorcana. I would hope 6 mana just draw 3 is average, but then you still like lose the body. Like if the games go long enough, and you can afford 4 mana do nothing, which it's also uninkable, so you also hope you don't break on it. If the games go long enough that you can afford to do this and just draw more cards throughout the game and just outvalue your opponent, I would say it's good. I just feel like the games would have to go. I feel like the games would have to go realistically too long, or unrealistically long.
So final verdict is?
Final verdict is I have to say it's a bad card.
Your instincts serve you well. This is a terrible card. It's a shame, too, because, again, there's a cool concept here. I don't know why it's uninkable. This absolutely should have been inkable. I don't think it would see play even with that. And you pretty much got it that there's just so many hoops you have to jump through, right? And, yes, in 1 in 30 games, you will draw a ton of cards off this. You will use your Mulan. She'll go and hit a bunch of stuff. She'll have 5 damage on her. You hit her with the dinner bell, and you draw 5 off of a card that also wiped out their board. It's going to feel amazing. But all that only lines up about once in every 30 games. So it's just too unreliable, too expensive, too many hoops, too many conditions to want to be a staple in any deck.
That is unfortunate. So someone, not to say someone, but I think I saw this card earlier. I was trying to figure out what movie it's from. I found it's from Great Mouse Detective.
Yep.
Which is one of my favorites. I definitely enjoyed watching this movie every now and then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can see Radigan's shadow back there in the background if you look close behind the bell, and that's his glove ringing it. So Ruby was a bit of a letdown. Let's see if Sapphire treats us any better. Okay, starting with Sapphire. This is Stitch. He is a 3-cost, uninkable, experiment 626, 3/3 stat line, has 2 effects. 1, So Naughty. When you play this character, each opponent puts the top card of their deck into their inkwell face down and exerted. Stealth mode. At the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may choose and discard a card that has ink on it to play this character for free, and he enters play exerted. Quest for 2. What do you think?
Ooh. 3 mana, 3/3, quest for 2, which is pretty decent, as we saw earlier with the lady. Quest for the same amount, doesn't bring in a body, but has those extra stats for like survivability. When you play this character, each opponent puts the top card of their deck into the inkwell face and exerted. So you ramp your opponent, which hurts because now your opponent just got free ink. Does blue have a way to kind of stack your opponent's deck?
I can't think of a way. So if they do, it's like a one-off card. I don't believe they do.
Okay. Because otherwise it's like, oh, if you could like stack your opponent's deck and put like their best card on top, you play the Stitch or whatever. Now like their best card or like their answer to something now just goes straight to their inkwell. They don't have it.
I will say blue does have a few methods that you can't stack it, but you can reveal it. Like there's a location that just says you always know what the top of their deck is. So it has a few things like that, but they're not like super common.
Okay. I guess revealing like that's still fine. Just because like knowing what your opponent's going to have and have like it's like pseudo hand knowledge.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, so like that's usually pretty good. But then this kind of gets rid of that because it goes to their inkwell. But then again, like if you know it's like a good card and it's going to easily wash you or something, you just throw in their inkwell. You just don't worry about it. And hope the next card isn't the exact same card. Otherwise, it's giving your opponent a free resource, which is always like not good unless you get something out of it. At the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may choose and discard a card with ink to play this card for free, and he enters play exerted. So you can replay him, but every single time you play him, he's going to send something into your opponent's inkwell. Okay, here's another question. Does I can't remember. Does Lorcana have like the uniqueness rule?
They do not. Yeah, there's no like FF legendary rule. So you can have, if you have 4 of these Stitches, you can put 4 of them out on the field together.
Because then it's like, I wonder if there's like a mill deck that you could do this with, because it's like you have like a bunch of these Stitches on board. They die, like maybe you train your opponent's stuff, whatever, they die. It goes to you. You can discard cards from your hand. If you have like a sufficient enough draw engine, you bring these back, make your opponent put a bunch of stuff into their inkwell. Do like that. No, I'm probably reaching it because you have to discard. So, even if you draw enough to do that, you probably just go toe to toe with your opponent with however many they're. Put in 1 and then they draw 1 for turn. Yeah, it's probably not worth it then. Ooh. I'm gonna say it's not a good card.
Yeah, I would say that's an understatement. This card is terrible. It's probably the worst card I've shown you. I don't even know what the plan was for this card. It's uninkable for some reason, which is baffling. It ramps your opponent, which I really don't understand, because usually blue is the color that ramps yourself, or it does have some cards that maybe they can like put a character into their inkwell. So like, yeah, it's giving them ink, but at least it's getting a character off the board. This just gives them free ink, and then it's not like if the revival was free, I would kind of get it. Like, oh, that's the trade-off. He keeps coming back for free, but he helps them. But no, you have to you have to discard a card to get him back anyway, and then he's exerted, so it's not like he can just be challenged again right away. Like, this card's awful. I don't really know what they were thinking with this card. You mentioned the mill strategy, but there's just nothing that's efficient enough to be able to like do that ad nauseum in order to just mill them out. So yeah, very, very strange card. I'm not really sure what the plan with this was.
Yeah, I don't know, because you're like, okay, you give your opponent a free resource, period. Surely the other effect is something that's like really, really good, and that's the trade-off. No, you have to discard. it's not even like you could pay 1 and then you get him back.
Right.
So you get him back at like a discount. It's like, no, you have to discard a whole card.
Yeah. Well, and something to note too, the way Lorcana works, our opening phase, it goes ready, set, draw. So you ready all your characters, they all stand up. You set. This effect occurs during the set phase. So this effect occurs before you draw for turn, which means, let's say you're in top deck mode, you don't have a card in hand, you can't even spend that card you drew to pay for him because you don't have anything in hand at the time. So he's
that is pretty bad, man.
Yeah, he's awful.
No.
Hopefully this next one's better. We'll see. Blue. Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. You read this one.
All right, we got Grandpappy, oldest and wisest. So it's a 7-cost unequal 3/6. Does quest for 3 lore. Ancient Insight. When you remove 1 or more damage from one of your characters, gain 2 lore. Okay, so we saw with the Pluto earlier that at least Amber has ways to heal damage essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have. So I'm assuming Amber's like the only color that can like remove damage.
It's the predominant one. There's a few in other colors, but predominantly it's Amber.
Okay, so you would have to run, and this is Sapphire, so you have to be specifically.
Yeah. Blue does have some as well. Like within Sapphire itself, there are certain ways to heal.
Okay, so you can probably do it with blue another thing, but if you're trying to do this specifically, I guess you would have to go into yellow. So I guess it just depends on what cards yellow has to support this. It is in blue. It does cost 7, but like you said, blue is the ramp color.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 7, but if you ramp, you're probably not going to play this on turn 7. You could probably get it that much earlier, just depending on how much ramp is available and how good it is and how cheap it is. It's 3/6, so the power is kind of low, but that's fine. You'd rather have the bigger defense because you kind of wanted to stick around. It does quest for 3. Okay, whenever you remove 1 or more damage from one of your characters, gain 2 lore. Okay, so you could do a thing where you could like have a character challenge one of your opponent's other characters because like maybe it's like bothersome, or you just want to get off the board. It takes anything because you just have to remove 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes any amount of thing. You have a yellow card that can heal it. So you were able to get rid of a threat. Yours is basically healed, and you gain 2 lore off of it. So even if that character had 2 lore, and you lost out on getting it through just a regular quest, this just kind of circumvents that, and you get 2 lore. So that sounds good. I guess it just depends on how good the healing cards are, and how just like how easy it is to heal. Because if like healing is very hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
then this card's probably not good. But if you're able to, and like I said, it just needs to heal 1. So if you had like a repeatable heal something for 1, like once per turn, you're fine with that because this is just gonna help generate lore throughout the game. And like you said, we're in blue and we're in the ramp color. I think it's a good card. It also quests for 3.
He's going with good.
I want to say it's good. I'm gonna say it's good.
I realize now that as I'm going through these with you, I put quite a few bad cards on this list, and this card continues that tradition. This is a bad card. It doesn't see any play. However, there was one back in like set 2-3, really cool red-blue deck that used this, and it could OTK you. Red has a lot of effects that put damage on your own characters, and there are some blue items and yellow items you kind of hinted to where it's like you can tap them for 1 and they'll heal a damage. And so he would quest for 3, suddenly you got the heal, that's 5. 5 is a fourth of your victory, and you could just get an insane amount of lore out of nowhere. Being in blue does allow you to ramp, so you really hit on a lot of the points. The problem being blue-yellow is a particularly weak combination, so that's the predominant healing color, and it's just a weak color combination because it lacks removal. And similar to some of these other cards, it's just also asking for a lot of setup that you've got to get all this out on the board, hope they haven't beaten you yet, and then get stuff that's damaged, and then see the cards that heal. So while there was a very fun OTK deck around this, in general, he's not very good.
What's happening?
You'll see a lot of this with Lorcana cards, that there are a lot of these cards are good ideas, but because they're uninkable or they're too expensive or whatever, unfortunately, they just don't see any play. So let's see if I put some better cards here in Steel. Here we go. Our first location. This is Treasure Mountain, the Azurite Sea Island. So this is a 5-cost uninkable, 2 movement, 9 health, has 2 lore, and has the ability Secret Weapon. At the start of your turn, deal damage to chosen character or location equal to the number of characters here. Okay, do you know how locations work?
Okay, so it has 9 toughness, so you have to still like trade into as you normally would. You said it has movement 2, so I think you had to like pay 2 to move a character. Correct. Here, just on its own. And then the 2 lore, it's like at the beginning of a turn, or at the beginning of your turn, you would get whatever the lore is. And this
Correct.
Then you return, you would just get 2 free lore. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a character that, and the reason it's sideways is they're always exerted, so at all times they can be challenged. They don't ever hit back, but they have toughness, and at the beginning of your turn, they auto quest for their lore amount. So yeah, it sounds like you nailed it.
They're a pretty card. Let's see.
Yeah, and this is an enchanted version of it, which is why the art looks kind of all fancy.
Okay. All right, let's see. So it is 5. It is uninkable, which may hinder it, but it is 9 health, which is definitely a large amount of health to get through. And it's 2 free lore every turn. It's there. At the start of your turn, deal damage to the chosen character. Okay, at the start of your turn, deal damage to chosen character or location. Okay. Are there any characters that say when a location is played, you could move to that location for free?
Yes, and there are characters who say like, "Hey, as my special power, when you play me, move me and another character to a location for free." So there are ways to circumvent the move cost of a location.
Okay. Okay, so that makes this better, I guess. If there's it also depends on like if how many of them are in steel. That way it can more easily mesh with another color.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to go with a color that can do that pretty well. So you kind of force in that 2-color combination. But like if this is your game plan, then I guess you're fine with that. Because then start of your turn, deal damage to chosen character or location equal to the number of characters. Okay, so you just have a bunch of guys here. You're just gonna keep getting rid of some at the beginning of your turn. So as long as there's there's enough. I know steel also has like the ping damage. So like this could deal X amount, and then steel you'll play something that can just like finish it off.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. So that's probably fine. You're getting rid of something every turn, which is pretty good, I would think. It has 9 health. Are there characters that can instantly remove locations?
There are characters and actions that have like when I'm used, banish a location or put it in your inkwell or something like that. Yes, I won't tell you the cost of those, but I will say yes, there are instant banish effects.
They do exist. Let's see. It's still 5 and it's uninkable, but like, say like you put it with blue because like 5 isn't too bad. I feel like because then it's not necessarily do nothing. It's kind of do nothing. You gotta wait the turn to get the lore, but even if a character that says, "Oh, when if you like you said, because like they do exist." So like if there's a character that says, "Oh, when a location enters, you can move there for free." Not only do you get the 2 lore, but you can also ping something for at least a point of damage, which could then also hopefully steamroll.
What do you think?
I want to say it's good. I think there's probably hopefully enough stuff that you can play like a slower control-y game plan. So I'm gonna say it's good.
He says it's good. How I wish that were true. This card's terrible. It sees no play. Which I know has been a lot of them. And it's a shame because I really like the idea of this card. I think the issue is, one, it's uninkable, and that really hurts a lot of these cards that you need to, if because if you draw this early, you're stuck with it. Here's the thing about locations in general. Locations are very good when you're ahead, because imagine you've got, let's say an aggro board or even just a mid-range board. You've got 3 characters on the board that your opponent has to deal with. Now you drop this 9 health location that in general is immune to most removal. Most removal targets characters. So they then have to run 9 health worth of stuff into this location on top of all the characters you have. They just can't do it. So when you're ahead, locations are great. The problem is when you're behind, if they have 4 characters on the board and you need to answer them, you can't spend 5 ink to drop something that doesn't deal with any of their characters and just sits there. So that's just kind of the issue with locations in general. And the other thing with this one is it's just too expensive and slow, assuming you don't have ways to cheat characters here. Think about this. So you play this on turn 5. Turn 6, let's say you spend all 6 of your ink to move 3 characters here. You go 2, 2, 2. Then on turn 7, it finally shoots them for damage. So even though you play it on 5, in that perfect scenario, you would still have to wait for it to turn 7 in order for it to actually hit something, which is just far too slow. And again, requires you to have characters. If those characters get removed, suddenly you don't get that effect anymore. If it was when they moved there, it instantly shot them, I think that would be a lot better, and it would probably let it see play.
That's the other thing, because even though it's out of location, they could still just remove it anyways. I guess that's true. I did forget about that.
Yeah. So it's a great idea, but sadly sees no play. All right, well, that's okay. We'll try our next steel card, see if we're anybody here. Read this card for me.
Ooh. I remember seeing this one, at least on the playmats. So we got Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. It's a 6-cost inkable, 4/5, quests for 2, Floodborn Ally Fairy. You can shift for 4, rock the boat. When you play this character, deal 1 damage to each opposing character. Okay. Puny Pirate. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may deal 2 damage to chosen opposing character. Okay. So, 6. So let's see, 6 costs 4/5. It is inkable. You can shift it for 4. So as long as you have a decently good Tinkerbell, like costs 3 or less, hopefully you're on the board by then. You play this on 4. Most things, I think, by that point are pretty much on the lower end of health. I don't think there's any. Let's see, 4 or less. I don't think there's too many things. At least I can't remember any that cost 3 or less to have 4 more health. I could be wrong. I think there's like a 0/4, but I can't remember. But I guess it depends if that card's good. But otherwise, 3 costs or less. This could potentially deal something 3 damage. Because you go Tinkerbell earlier, they'll play their guys, whatever. You shift this on 4. You ping everything on your opponent's board for 1 right off jump. And then you could trade into another character. So you get rid of you could get rid of a character then. And then when it banishes another character in the challenge, you're going to ping something else for 2. So on 4, you could potentially get rid of like 2 of your opponent's characters, and then you still have a 4/5 body. That's no small body. So hopefully it sticks around, and then the following turn you either just quest for 2, or you could always go and hit another thing, get rid of another body. But you're probably not. You're probably doing this for that effect like once. But I think if you're doing it for once, I think you're doing it in a place where it's like it's good enough to do it for once. So you're probably fine. And they also made it into a playmat. Surely they wouldn't put a bad card art on a playmat, right?
Surely not, right? Yeah, surely marketing knows what they're doing.
Surely not. I mean, if I remember anything from Final Fantasy, I mean, they usually put like pretty good cards on playmats. They put Vaughn on a playmat. That was a pretty good card.
Right? Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was good during Opus, during set 14 and
15. Yeah, good old Sky Pirates.
The Sky, and then you had the Dancer package with the Fallen set.
That's true.
I'm gonna say it's a good card. I know you said you've been putting a lot of bad cards on it. I don't know. I just feel like you could do this early enough in the game where you can get rid of some threats on your opponent's board. You gain some tempo. I think it's a good card.
Not only is it a good card, it is a great card. It's one of my personal favorites. In set 1, this card was incredible just because the card pool was so limited. There is a song called Grab Your Sword, which would deal 2 damage to your entire opposing board. And so it was a very common play to you'd shift the Tinkerbell, she'd do for 1, you'd immediately have her sing Grab Your Sword, and then that would do 2, so you do 3 to the whole board. Obviously, if you shift 1 to the board, she immediately hits something. She knocks that out. I call it her ricochet. She then shoots the damage to something else. Like, she's such good tempo. And then if they leave her around, she's threatening to keep doing that every turn. Or if the board's clear, she quests for 2, so she even helps your win condition. And unlike the Mulan, and I'm realizing how similar this card is to the Mulan, you don't have to shift the Tinkerbell. Playing Tinkerbell just on 6 to get 1 to the board is very good. And then you have this body threatening that, hey, I'm going to start taking out multiple things if you quest in my face. So yeah, Tinkerbell is wonderful, and I love the art on this card. It's always been some of my favorite art. And in this case, you are correct. They did not put a bad card on a playmat.
All right.
So those are the main 6 colors, but I have one more surprise for you, and it is Dual Inks. Welcome to the world of Dual Inks. This is an Amethyst Steel card. This is Mufasa. Number 7, or I should say 7 cost, 5/7 stat line, a shift 5. He is evasive, and he has resist +1, which means any damage dealt to this character is reduced by 1, and he quests for 2. What do you think of Mufasa here?
So let's see. So you can only put up to 2 different inks in a deck, right? You
Correct.
Can't put Okay.
Yeah, so the way Dual Inks work is, in this game, they are locked to this color. So this Mufasa must be played in a Amethyst Steel deck.
Okay, so you have to be Amethyst Steel, which is unfortunate because if either one of the colors was blue, it would at least feel better because it costs 7. As we have seen, a lot of 7 cost things, unless they do a big thing, it seems like aren't really good. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It is inkable. So like it's inkable, so like maybe it's fine, but then it's like just because it's inkable doesn't mean there's off rip is good.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. You can play it on 5. So then it's a question of in the other 2 colors, is there good enough Mufasa that costs 4 less that you're fine with running to then shift this on 5? But then it's like, okay, you paid 5, you get this. It doesn't do anything on entry. It only quests for 2. It does have evasive. So only if your opponent has evasive stuff that can trade in. And it does have 7 health, which is definitely very tanky. And then it does have the resist. So this is one of those things where it's like, if challenging was more relevant in the game, kind of like you said, like Hearthstone or Shadowverse or something, where like the stats are like what do the talking, not so much the lore. Like if it was the stats that mattered here, actually, I would think it's a pretty good card because only so many things can challenge into it. It has resist, so any damage it takes is reduced by 1, and it's any damage, and it has 7 health. So I feel like if the stats more matter in that sense, I would think it's a pretty good, like a pretty decent, like big body card you could throw in just like as a nuisance for your opponent to deal with. Unfortunately, that's not how this game works. It's not in blue. It costs 7. There's no like big flashy thing it's gonna do when it enters. Unfortunately, I have to say it's a bad card.
Give the man a prize. You're getting quite good at this. Yeah, it's got some fun art, and he'd be a really good beater. That you shift him on 5, you can now knock out your opponent's Dumbo right away, right? He can't just sit there using his Dumbo effect. You just knock it out. Really one of the things holding this back, and maybe in the future it'll see more play, there just isn't a good Mufasa for him to shift onto. Because you can't just play this for 7. That's just way too slow for a card that does nothing on entry, and we're not in blue, as you alluded to. If there was a good Mufasa, like if there is a Mufasa, a 4 cost that like drew you 2 cards or something, and then then you brought this guy in on top of him, I think you'd actually see this card see quite a bit of play. But I don't think the only Mufasas I can even think of that he can shift on, like, it's just they're also just bodies. They don't have any effects. So if he ever gets a good Mufasa, I actually think this card could see some play for the shift line. But without that, yeah, it's just another one he's gonna have to stay up there in the clouds.
It is unfortunate.
It is. All right. Second to last one. This is Ludwig von Drake. Did I read Mufasa? Yeah, I think this is your turn. So read this card for me.
All right. So now we have a Amber Sapphire multi-ink card. So it's a 2-mana uninkable 1/1. Storyborn ally, quests for 1. Superior Mind. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of your choice. Lasting Legacy. When this character is banished, you may put this card into your inkwell face down and exert it. Okay. So this is where I was kind of mentioning earlier just how good ramp is and how cheap it is. So it costs 2. Granted it itself isn't inkable, but it only costs 2. So I'm pretty sure you're fine with that. I'm pretty sure you can manage 2 ink, and then this is going to ramp you to a third one when it's banished. The first part can be a little iffy. Opponent reveals their hand just because a non-character card of your choice. So you get the choice, but you're limited to in what you can choose, and that it has to be a non-character. So this can grab locations, items, and like any actions.
Actions and songs, yeah.
Actions and songs. So, but I can't imagine, aside from like maybe the aggro decks where they're probably like very predominantly characters, where you're hopefully gonna at least hit something, and just depending on how good how hurtful discard is, that might be fine. Like they still lost a card. Maybe it's a card they wanted to throw in the inkwell, but now it's like they can't throw it in, so now they have to throw in another card they really don't want to ink in, or it's a card they really wanted to play later. Now they don't have it, so just so it can still do things. If it just and then you still get the hand knowledge, so you still also get to look at what you're in your opponent's hand, which in and of itself is also really good. So I guess maybe if you don't discard, just knowing your opponent's hand is pretty good. And then the other part, yeah, you have to wait until your opponent like deals with it, I guess, for it to go into your inkwell. But like, it's 1 health. And you yourself could always trade into like your opponent's thing if you really needed the ram. It doesn't feel good, but like it's an option. But again, like it's 1 health. Otherwise, it's just gonna keep questing every single turn. And even though it's 1 lore at a time, it's still 1 lore. You're still getting there. So I feel like your opponent is probably gonna deal with it before you feel like you have to trade it into something, unless there's like a favorable trade for you. Like if there's some maybe thread on your opponent's board and it just has like 1 health, you just throw this in, you get rid of the thread, this goes in your inkwell. Magical Christmas Land, but like it could happen. It could happen. I'm pretty sure it could happen somewhere. But then you also said blue yellow isn't like the strongest deck because of removal, which the card reads good, but if the deck as a whole isn't good, then it's like, and like it has to be in those colors too. Like if this was just in one or the other, it'd be good, but because it has to be in both, and you said blue yellow is like a weak deck combination.
I'll say this too. While blue yellow is a weak combination, you should evaluate this card not with that in mind, just based on what it does versus the color it's in.
What it does, I think it's a good card.
You going like good?
I'm gonna go with good.
Excellent.
There's a lot of good things going for it.
Good choice. Yes, this card is good, and I would argue this is great. If you were to play yellow-blue, while, yes, it's not a very strong combination right now, this is a card you'd absolutely jam 4 of in because it does everything you want it to. Usually, removal is in the form of an action. So if he can come down and he rips removal out of your opponent's hands, that's fantastic. The hand knowledge is very important in a game that's on a curve like Lorcana. Like in Final Fantasy, hand knowledge is only so good because they draw 2 a turn and they can kind of play whatever they want. But in Lorcana, if you're going first, you drop this on turn 2, you know, oh, he doesn't even have a 2 cost or a 3 cost in hand. He can't do anything for the next 4 turns. I can do whatever I want. That's huge. And then the fact that he just adds to your inkwell when he gets banished is incredible. I have seen people not wanting to give him to your inkwell. They'll just let him sit there and quest for 3 turns. You know, you've paid 2 ink to rip a great card out of their hand and then get 3 lore out of it. Like before they're finally like, oh, I'll just get rid of him. And then he just ramps you anyway. So he fires on all cylinders. He does everything you want him to. Yeah, on occasion, you'll whiff the hand discard, but again, the knowledge itself is worth it. If this color combination was better, I could even see people complaining about this card just being obnoxious with that, Zidane effect that we know from Final Fantasy of ripping such a good card from hand. But probably that's what's keeping him in check right now is just the combination is not very good. But if it ever is, like, he will be there leading the charge because he's very strong.
There's just so much going for it. And that's unfortunate the colors aren't too good because he reads really good.
Yeah, he really does. All right, sir. Xavier, it is your final card of this video, and it is the Queen of Hearts, a 5-cost uninkable, the unpredictable bully. 2/6. This is an Emerald Ruby card. Shift 3, quest for 2, and has 1 effect. If I lose my temper, whenever another character is played, put a damage counter on them. What do you think?
Interesting. Okay. So let's see. So whenever another character is played, so this includes yours.
Correct.
So whatever you play is going to come in with damage on them. If there was ever a deck that the Dinnerbow would go in, it would probably be this.
Right. Very good. Very good.
Just but as we established, the card's not good. So let's see. So it's 5 mana. It's uninkable. Like we said, that's usually probably not good. But you can shift this on 3. So assuming there's a good enough 1 or 2 drop Queen of Hearts that can just stick around for a turn. You drop this on 3 mana 2/6. I think it's fine. It has very large toughness, which seems like I would prefer more. If you want a card that can just stick around, you definitely want the stats to more vested in like the health of the card. So they can definitely stick around to do things. Quest for 2, so that's fine. If you have cards that say, when this is damaged, do a thing, or if this has a point of damage or something, it can do a thing. Or this does thing X times for X amount based on how much damage it has. This helps feed into that. So, assuming that kind of deck archetype exists, even if it's like just playable, this definitely would help that like be playable. It's still because otherwise if you don't shift it, it's 5 mana, do nothing. So you really have to be able to... Because I feel like on turn 3, you can afford... And even then, like, you're not doing nothing per se, because this could still quest for 2. So I feel like a turn 3 do nothing, you can get away with. Definitely much easier than you could have turn 5 do nothing. It's in red. Let's see, so we're not in a ramp color. We're not in like we're not in blue, so we can't do the Grand Peppy thing that you mentioned earlier. So we also can't ramp. We're not in yellow, so we also couldn't heal if we ever wanted to heal for any reason. But if that archetype if the archetype exists, this would definitely give it legs. If it doesn't exist at all, and you're just pinging your opponent's stuff for 1, and then like you're not in steel either, so like the ping one probably won't matter because then like steel could probably finish it off depending on the health. I'm gonna say it's a bad card.
He says it's a bad card, and unfortunately, you are correct, because once again, this is a cool idea. Now, I will say, so in general, green-red, similar to yellow-blue, is just one of the weakest color combinations in the game, and you actually touched on a lot there without even knowing about it. I think this card is a perfect example of how Lorcana is sometimes held back by the fact that you can only run 2 ink colors, because if you could run this with Grandpappy, and you could make this cool self-damaging, self-healing deck getting lore out of it. Unfortunately, you can't do that. Now, there is a very specific deck this goes in, and it's really fun, and it is absolutely built around what you touched on. There are red characters. For every damage I have, I gain lore, or a green-red character, it says, whenever one of my characters takes damage, I get to draw a card. So there are other good cards that do give you that payoff, and sometimes even just the combat math of, like, they played a 3/3, which normally could hit the queen and not die, but now it trades into the queen because it took a damage it wasn't expecting to. So there are some fun stuff, but as is kind of universal of any trading card game, what are we talking about? We're talking about jumping through hoops. Well, if you have the A and B and C and D, you finally get to do E, whereas all the good decks say, yeah, I just do A and I win anyway. So fun idea. The deck it goes in is very fun, but it is not competitive at all.
That is unfortunate. And you know what? Funny how we're doing this now because next month is spooky season, and this is definitely a very spooky themed card.
Yeah, absolutely.
The art's pretty cool.
Yeah, the art is wonderful. And that's it. We've reached the end. Oh, thank you so much for doing this with us, sir. I kind of apologize. I didn't realize there were so many bad cards in there now that I'm going back on it, but at least they all had... They all do have good concepts, and I do think that's something Lorcana is very good at, is they have good concepts. Unfortunately, they often ruin those concepts by making them uninkable or overcosted or just putting way too many hoops you've got to jump through.
Oh, man. And like some of them do look really cool. I wish there were decks for it just because like I think it's like, yeah, on paper it sounds really cool. And then there just is nothing for it. And you're like sad. It's like, oh, that's unfortunate. I wish
I know. Well, Xavier, I appreciate you jumping on with me. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, plug Shadowverse, whatever you feel like?
Well, there would be one guy I would plug for Shadowverse. Unfortunately, he stepped away a while back, which is unfortunate. There really isn't. We don't really have too many. Actually, that's a lie. We actually have a couple ambassadors for the English side. We have Chris, otherwise known as Different Fight, on all his socials on YouTube. Started with the more popular of the Bushiroad games, Vanguard, but also did Shadowverse for a long time. So when Shadowverse came to paper, he also became an English ambassador for Shadowverse. Along with him, we have Red Rogue Zone, I believe is how you say it. It's definitely those words in it. I just hope I got the order right. Another ambassador that does Shadowverse content, deck techs, all that good stuff. And there is a third one. I'm gonna butcher his name. It's like Ingenious or something like that. And it's really gonna suck. It's like, dude's really cool. It's just very unfortunate I'm butchering his name.
Yeah, that's okay. It's what happens when you got online names. So I'm sure they'll appreciate that. All right, my man. Well, I appreciate you being on here, folks. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below if there's certain cards you would want to see, if there's other game players you want to see. Try to rate some Lorcana cards. I always enjoy doing this kind of content. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it as well. I appreciate you watching so much. And until next time, take care.